Hello. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Hi guys. Welcome everybody. Can you hear me okay? I plugged in my microphone this time, which I don't normally do, but I think there were some issues last time, so I've plugged it in. But you just give me a thumbs up to let me know you can hear me and that I've set it up correctly. I am warning you now, guys. This could go off in some tangents. Oh, good, you can hear me. Because I don't know what to show you. I know that's not what you want to hear when you come onto these tutorials, but I find that if I overly plan it, I'll get stressed because I'll want to try and get through it all and I'll worry about answering your questions. So I do the opposite and I don't plan them. I sit down here with an empty screen in the hopes that something useful comes out of it for you. But it just means that you get to see me figuring it out too, and kind of, like if you ask me a question, I'm not like, here's one I did earlier. It's like, right, let's figure it out together. So the poll that I put out for this session was very close. So a lot of people wanted me to talk about volume and adding volume to your characters and your objects, which we will talk about, and I'll try and get some examples up. I was trying to figure that out then, was like, what files can I open to show? But a lot of people wanted some Photoshop basics. So I'm sorry if there's anybody here that knows Photoshop inside and out. I'm assuming a lot of you use Procreate. Does anybody here use Photoshop? Like me, it's your main tool software for drawing. Let me know. But I am going to cover some basics so that if you ever do open Photoshop, you aren't a bit overwhelmed by it. But to be honest, there's a lot of features I don't use. I keep it just to the basics. And I will talk you through it. So I think we'll do maybe 15-20 minutes on that, and then we'll move into the adding volume to your characters, which will be really interesting to talk about because I used to do it a lot more and I don't think many of you will know that. So I'll open some old files so you can see how I used to draw when I used to work in a studio, because I'll chat about it, but my job was to make our characters look 3D. That was literally what I was paid to do, so I really had to add volume to my characters. I don't do it as much anymore. I try and keep a flat style, but I do implement some of the things I learned when I worked in studios, so we'll talk about that. I use it, but mainly Procreate or Illustrator. I used to use Elements, but that was more for photo editing. I use Photoshop, I want to learn more. Illustrator, let's see, Autobook, Sketchbook. Do you mean Autodesk? Or Autobook, I don't know. I just know the Autodesk. Photoshop, Illustrator, Procreate. Okay, so some of you will already know all of this stuff. I tried Procreate, you'll know, back in 2019, and it's not for me. Maybe I could try again now, but I love Photoshop, and it's my favourite thing. I know it's pricier than Procreate, so it's not for everybody. And there are alternatives you can use, but anyway, I'll chat to you about some of the basics. Affinity Designer is a great alternative. So Photoshop. This is Photoshop. Let me just check what you can see. Is my face in the way? It's hard to put me anywhere. Tell you what, I'll move myself to here just while I kind of show you around the interface. So like I said, I don't use all of the fancy that Photoshop can do so much, and honestly I don't use everything, but here we go. This is when you open Photoshop, this is what you get. I tend to draw at A3 size I don't know if that's useful. A3 300 DPI, that's just my go-to. And then from there, I will like kind of scale down if need be. Along the left-hand side is all of your different tools you can use. Like I said, there's so much you can do with this. I stick to my brush tool. I stick to this, which is like a selection tool. What else do I use a lot of? I use a lot of gradients, which I can talk about. And as well in there, we have a paint bucket tool, which I use a lot of as well. And that's kind of it. I don't really touch much other things. And hang on, let me just make sure the chat box is up in case I can get any of your questions. If you have any questions, just ask them throughout, by the way, and I'll happily show you things. If you didn't write something down, or if you want me to go back and demonstrate something again, I can. So they're the kind of like main tools I use. Oh, and the rubber, obviously. The rubber's like the main thing I use. And as you can see, as you click these, different things happen along the top, different settings. This can look overwhelming because there's so much going on. Like, look, you hit the brush tool and there's like all these different things that you can see. Hi everybody, thanks for joining. So the main things you just need to know is here is where your size of your brushes is. I'll chat about brushes in a minute. Opacity. You guys know these things, but it's just like if you've never gone on Photoshop before, it can be a bit overwhelming. These buttons up here are worth noting. So if you, for example, if I just select a normal brush, if you select a hard round brush and start drawing, I'll explain that in a minute. You might be like, oh, well, that's not nice to line your work with. Having a look at some of these tools at the top will really help. So I always have this selected, and basically it just means it's going to take the pressure from my pen and make nice lines. So if you're going on Photoshop and you're like, oh, why are my lines all big and clunky? It could be that you have that off and it's not picking up. Like, doesn't matter if I press lightly or hard, it will do the same width all the way through. Does that make sense? So just make sure you have that selected. Another thing that I like to play around with is smoothing. So when you have this on 0%, basically it just means hang on. As I draw, you can't see my pen, but as I draw, it's literally happening as I'm doing it. If you turn up smoothing to 100%, there's a delay. And what's great about that is if you are lining something, you can get a really, you can't even see because my face is in the way. If you want to line a character, putting smoothing on is great because there's a delay. So can you see where my pen is? It's like further along than the line, you see there? It just means I have more control. So it's really nice for lining your work with. What else do I like? They're kind of the main things I like to use. This butterfly that you see here is a really fun thing, which I don't use often because I don't do much symmetry. I try not to have too much symmetry, but if that's something you do, like say if you have a character, let me just move my face, that is like front on all the time, symmetry is really good because you can literally like just do one side. You know what I mean? I have no idea what the character is there. Okay, I don't know what that character is, but symmetry is really fun. I don't use it enough because I don't really do much forward-facing characters, but it can be so much fun. So have a play around with that. So that's kind of your brush tool. Now, in terms of brushes, I get asked all the time, what brushes do you use? Can you like send us the brushes you use? I don't use fancy brushes at all. The two brushes I use are these two, and I got them from Kyle's Drawing Box, which when I got them was like a paid thing you did. I don't know how much I paid for all of his brushes, like so many brushes and I literally don't use any of them. I just use these two. But now Kyle has put his brushes into Photoshop, so I don't know how it works because obviously these are just from when I bought them, but I think when you get Photoshop now, you get his brushes in there. So have a look. But my two favorites that I use on every single drawing that I use, hang on, is the China marker, which is what I line my drawings with. I love it. Let me see if I can actually... yeah, Kyle's brushes are free with an Adobe membership. I just don't know how it looks because, like, I've had my brushes in Photoshop since I bought them. Does that make sense? So I don't know how it would look when you got them. But yeah, so I use... what is that? I don't know what that is. That's what I line my work with, is the China marker. And then my other favourite brush is the Happy HB. And I use this for, I don't know, I like add shadows with this brush. It's like my go-to. So the China marker, the Happy HB, and then there's the normal rounded brush are the only 3 brushes I use on all my drawings. So I'm sorry, I'm not the person to come to for brush advice because I'm not very adventurous. That's just what I stick to. But that's where you find your brushes, up here. And the same things I showed you before, I can do the smoothing, I can do all the different things with those brushes. So that's that. I'm just now you might see what I'm doing on the right hand side here. Let me move myself back over, hang on. Down here, and this section here is your layers. So if you're a Procreate person, you will know about layers. But one of the reasons I didn't enjoy Procreate was I constantly felt limited by the layers, and it's because you're working on an iPad. And I mean, I haven't used an iPad Pro, but I'm assuming you can do lots of layers there. But with a computer and with Photoshop, I literally have no limits. Like, I've done drawings with like 500 layers, which some people would feel sick looking at. But I'm a person that loves layers. I love having layers for every single element of my drawing. I love being able to control the different layers. So again, if you're new to this, like if you've never done digital drawing before and you want to get into it, but you don't understand how layering works, I'm just going to quickly explain. So when you come into Photoshop, you'll have one layer and it will be the background layer and it will be locked. It'll have a locked sign on it, which if you just click the lock sign, it will disappear. I don't really touch that layer. I leave that layer alone. Now to make a new layer, you want to go down to the bottom. Can you see here? This is new layer. You see? Layer 1. And I mean, a good practice is to change the name of that layer. I've worked in studios and I've been shouted at plenty of times for not naming my layers. Leanne, I don't name my layers. If it's just me with the file, which for the past 2 years it has been, I'm very happy to just, I know where my layers are. You know how your network works out. But when I used to work in studios, like I was I'm not the start of the pipeline, like the script is the start of the pipeline, but I was very early on in the pipeline. So I got the scripts, I had to design the characters and the props, and then they would go off to the riggers, the animators. My files had to be labeled and color coded, and I think I don't do it now because I'm just like, oh, I've done it for long enough, I'm not doing it anymore. But it's a good habit to get into if you're going to work with other people and you want to get into animation or anything like that. Get into the habit of naming your layers and don't leave it till the end when you've got 500 layers, because it is literally the worst task ever. Do it as you're going. Anyway, so layers, it literally works, and how I think about it is, I mean, this is a UK thing, I'm assuming it's other places. Do you remember when you were in primary school and you had like the projector they used to do onto onto the whiteboard, and they printed off like the clear cello, teachers on here will know what I'm talking about. What was it called, those machines where they were, do you know what I'm talking about? It was like clear, and they would like print it, put it on there, and then they could like mark it and it would be on the, what was that called? It's been so long since I was at school. Anyway, I'm sure somebody will tell me what I'm talking about. I think about layers in Photoshop. Acetate. Acetate. Overhead projector. Yes. Is that SMR? ASMR? Is that nice? Anyway, overhead projector. Yes. I think of Photoshop layers like that and Procreate layers. So think of them as like transparent layers that you can draw on, and then you can put another layer on the top and draw another layer. And I'll actually do that now. So for example, layer 1, I'm going to write, oh, I've got smoothing on, so it's, I'm going to write Emily, okay? That's on layer 1. I'm going to make layer, oh, no, it's not. Let's change. Okay, this is layer 1. Let's change that to R. With a different colour, and I'll show you colours in a minute, I'm going to do a line over the top. Right? Now, I haven't ruined the Emily. Oh, you can't see me. Hang on, let's move this. I've not ruined the Emily that I've written because it's on 2 separate layers. Okay? So, literally, I can remove that. I can hide it. I can hide this one. They're on 2 separate layers. Now, it's quite illustrators do different things. I've got illustrator friends that literally will do the most beautiful illustration, full illustration, and there'll just be 1 layer at the end of it. Because they literally will spend their time working on it and they'll just literally paint on that 1 layer. I, for example, do loads of layers because if it gets to the end and I want to tweak something, say I want to change the colour of a dress, I can just find that layer and tweak that layer. So layers are great for that. And then what I will say, my main reason for using layers, which we will touch on in a minute, when adding shadows and lighting, layers can be really helpful because, well, I'll show you, but you can use something called a clipping mask, which I use a lot. So brushes, tools along the left side, layers at the bottom. There's also different blending modes. This is kind of getting to the next level of like complicated now, but I'll also chat about this in a minute when we do volume. So I've made a purple ball on a layer. I'm going to make a new layer now. And what I want to do is I want to put a white X on the front of it. Okay, does that, oh, are we all good, yeah? Now, over here, where it says normal, that just means this white cross is normal in terms of blending modes. It'll make sense in a minute. If I click on it, I can change it to different things. We have darken, we have multiply. Now this is where it gets confusing. These ones here, darken, multiply. It's all to do, I didn't want this to be confusing, maybe I should have planned this. Because it's white, what I've got, I want to multiply it. It means it's going to take the white pixels and it's going to multiply that number by the colour that's underneath, which is the purple. But white is essentially like timesing by 0, so it's not going to do anything. Does that make sense? For multiply to work, I'll set it to multiply. Doing a darker colour. Or maybe not even a darker colour, just a different, not white. See? Does that make sense? I don't want this to be confusing. I think I'm getting confusing here for you. Basically, blending modes can be really fun. Really fun. I do them in all of my drawings. I put blending modes. But things like white, you want to use like overlay, light, linear light. Anyway, we're going to move on. That can be a whole other chat. Oh. It just said I went offline. Oh no. Are we back? Okay, it just said we went offline, so I'm just going to check. My video bitrate is up. Can you guys still see me? I'm so sorry if it just went. and hopefully it won't cut out again. Okay. Anyway, brushes, tools on the left, layers on the right. And then that's all you need really to start drawing, is some tools on the left, finding your colours. So let me show you where the colours are. On the left hand side, you can see a white and a black square, which you can alternate between the two. If you click on the white, it'll bring up this colour picker, and you can literally find whatever colour you want. Now this is HSB selection. You can select it through RGB. You can just have fun. I keep it to this and find my colours this way. And then once you've found your colour, you can just start drawing. So those are some very, very, very quick, basic Photoshop-y things. Is there anything that anybody wants me to show you? Maybe you've seen someone else do and you're like, how did they do that? Nothing too crazy, just quite basic. But is there anything, before we move on to doing the volumey stuff, is there anything anybody wants me to show you how to do? Please let me know, and I'm more than happy to show you how to do it. Yeah. Let me know. Let's have a quick drink. So I think what I wanted to show you is hi. So you guys know my drawing style now. I would say it's quite flat. That's not a negative thing to say, but for example, let me open my latest drawing, which is Ross and Rachel. So in terms of illustration, my style is flat. I have shadows, I have lighting, but the characters look flat. There's some things I do to try and add some volume, and I will talk about it. But my style used to be so much different. You might have been with me long enough to have seen how different it used to be, but I'm going to just quickly find some files to show you, because I think it might be useful. Hang on. Now, the reason I changed my style was because it used to just take me a long time, and the style developed from working in studios, and I had to draw this way. Hang on, where have I saved my files? Freelance, here we go. Okay, Photoshop file. Do I have a Photoshop file? It might only be JPEGs. Okay, they're only JPEGs, but I'll show you. So this is my portfolio. These are some portfolio pieces from when I worked in animation. And some of you might be really surprised because I don't draw like this anymore. Let me just open a few pages so you can see. But literally my job on this TV show, which never aired, sadly, was to design characters and props and things for a TV show. So as you can see here, my little well drawings that I did, I used to love drawing like this, and I could still do that. I could literally do drawings like this, and I think people would love it, but it used to take me so long. Mark, do you know Rolly? Do you know Rolly? Because it never aired. So I used to be the kind of assistant art director on this show. Oh, Mark, amazing. You didn't interview with me, right? Did you see me? Because I interviewed animators for the show. I didn't. Did I interview you? This is so exciting. So, yeah, I art directed this show alongside Steve, who Mark might know, was the kind of head of the Yeah, Mark, that's so funny. Oh my gosh. So Steve was the studio manager. I was his right-hand gal. So I was probably there when you were there. Anyway, so I kind of had to art direct this show. So the reason I'm showing you this is because this was my style. I had to make things look 3D. I had to add volume to it. I had to... yeah, so I'll show you some more things. So it's very different to the style that I do now. And then I'll show you like characters. This was a character I designed for the show. And it's... do you have any perspective tips, or do you freehand the perspective on your studio work? So cute. Perspective was really hard, but I remember in the studio having grid lines on all these drawings. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a child of the 80s, and the hand-drawn Disney classics are where my heart is, so my style is heavily influenced by flat cartoon style with cell shading. Yes, I completely understand. So, as you can see, this is very different to what I do now, and it does look 3D, and that's because of some of the volume tips that I'm going to show you today. And although I don't draw like this anymore, there's still some things that I do that are similar. Does that make sense? So like this was the one I was like most proud of, because to me it looks 3D. Sorry, I'm just looking to see like what I can show you. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my drawings and I'm going to apply some techniques, not to make your drawings look like this, because that's not what this is about. It's more showing you what you can do to add a bit more volume to your drawings. So yeah, so that's kind of showing you. I just kind of want to back up what I'm going to show you. Because I know I draw flat at the minute, very flat. So yeah, right, let's, so like looking at Ross and Rachel now, style's completely different, isn't it? But I could make this look very 3D. It just takes a long time to do, and it's really hard, really hard. I think I've got a character, hang on, let's see if I can show you this one. So this guy, it took me ages when I did this project. But again, there's a lot of like volume and things that I'll show you in a sec. So this one took me ages. And let's see if I've got any. Yeah, I think that kind of shows you, gives you some examples. So let's actually draw, shall we? Let's get open. Does anyone have any questions anyway, by the way? Does anybody want me to demonstrate anything? Let me know. Let me know. Right, hang on, I had a file that I wanted to use and I've misplaced it. There he is. So I thought I'd open this guy. I haven't opened this file for a good while. So let me kind of strip him back. Oh, it's flat. Okay, I thought it would be the full file and it's not. So I might not be able to do what I wanted to do on this. Oh, that's annoying. Hang on, let me see if I can find the full Photoshop file. My plan was to kind of strip this tiger back. What's this one? This might be the file I've just opened. Yeah, it is. Oh, I don't have the full tiger file anymore, which is really rubbish. What's this one? Yeah, no, sadly I don't. I was going to strip this tiger back and I was going to re-shade him with kind of some more 3D. Let's see. Were you taught this the old way, or was that just how you started? Hope that makes sense. I wasn't taught any of this really. I've had to learn it myself because so I left uni, and at uni I did animation. I didn't do illustration at all. So the Elsa post that I put on Instagram, was it yesterday? If you scroll to the right, that first drawing was how I was drawing when I got a job in the studio. So that Elsa, let me see if I show you. That Elsa there was drawn in 2014, maybe late 2013. It says 2013 on my signature, so it would have been later on in the year, just after the film came out, maybe. I don't really know. Anyway, that was how I got into the studio, and then by the end, that's how I was drawing. But there was nobody at the studio that was teaching me how to draw. I just had to, every project, I was kind of assigned to be like, right, Emily, make this look really good. And I worked really long hours trying to get good. So no, I haven't been taught. Just being in a studio and being tasked with, right, Emily, we've got this leprechaun character and he needs to look 3D, so go away, come back in a week and it needs to be finished. And when somebody tells you that, you just have to learn fast. So yeah. Creating a loft to celebrate your week of Frozen R&B. This is all Photoshop. Everything you see in here, all these characters, were done in Photoshop. So I'm going to just quickly find another character that I've done, because I don't want to spend all my time drawing the character. I want to draw a character already done, and then we can add some shadows to it. So let's have a nosy. Should we do Beauty and the Beast? God, I've not opened these files in years. Let's see how this looks. Probably shocking. But this was one of my first YouTube videos ever, years ago. Let's kind of strip it all back again. Let's see how it looks. Does anyone remember this drawing? Anyone been with me long enough to remember this drawing? So I'm just going to, let's do Belle. And let's just take all of the little lighting effects off it. And kind of strip it back. Let's see. Oh, thanks, Sandy, but please don't feel crap and useless. You have to remember, this is 8-9 years of work. This isn't me just a year into it. Like, anyway, right. So as you can see, lots of layers. Now, I'm going to show you the dress. Let me see what layers I've done here, because this was done years ago, so I'm hoping I do a better job now. This was before I used lines in my drawings, so it's a little bit different. Sorry, I'll just get my head around how I've done this dress here. Those are the arms, let's rename it. Those are the arms. That's the dress bottom. Where's the top of the dress? That's the arms. There we go. Body. Right. So, can you see down here where I've got body and then I've got these like little arrow layers of, oh no, you can't see, hang on. So I'm going to put me Oh no. I'll put me up here, okay? So you can see down here. Yeah? So can you see here, body? And then above it, I've got these layers and they've got arrows in them. What those arrows mean is it means it's a clipping mask. So if I just hide these layers, which doesn't delete them, it just kind of turns the visibility off. And what we're actually looking at is this body bit, right? If I change the colour of it, this is the layer, right? Yeah? So let's just undo that. Now, these layers on top, because they have an arrow and it's a clipping mask, it means whatever I draw will only affect this layer. And what's great about that is, if I make a new one, if I was to draw a line going from the left of the screen to the right, it'll only affect the layer. That's what a clipping mask does. And I use them in all my drawings. So for this one, I have 4 clipping masks, and like this one does like a little highlight, that does a bit of a shadow, that does another little shadow, and that does a line. Right, well, we're going to delete all that. And I'm going to show you how a flat little layer there in a minute is going to have more volume. And volume comes from light and shadows. And there's so many better artists that can teach you amazing tips with this. If you're really into this kind of stuff, get on Schoolism. Schoolism is insanely good. I don't know how much it is now. I did it when it first launched years ago, and it was like £9. Might not be now because it might be crazy, but it's where Disney artists, like Disney, Universal artists, DreamWorks, they literally teach you all these things, and they can do so much amazing stuff with light and shadow. Anyway, so when it comes to adding volume, I like to do shadows first. So what I've just done there very quickly is I've selected the colour and it's given me an eyedropper, and I've eyedropped onto the colour of the layer that I want. So I want to make a shadow. So you could easily just go a little bit darker like that and paint a shadow. The problem when you do that is the colour is very muddy. That colour is very muddy. So what I like to do is I like to go, instead of straight down to get a shadow colour, I kind of go across and down to more like that. Yeah. Sometimes I even scroll down here to go give it a warmer shadow. I just like having warm shadows. So that might seem quite orange. It might be, actually. I've not really looked into it. So you can do shadows in different ways. I now would use a HB and do it quite flat. And I would... Oh, hang on. I've got too many layers going on. Let me just close all these tabs because I can feel it running out of memory. Are you all still with me, by the way? I've not lost you, have I? I really hope this is okay, what I'm doing. Anyway. Anyway, so there's different ways you can do it. If you want to get a nice soft brush, you have to think about, if this body was round, where will the shadows come from? And adding some shadow to both sides. Oh, sorry, I don't know what happened there. Instantly, like that, gives it a bit of volume. Anywhere that two things interact, you'll also have a bit of shadow. So that's kind of would be a starting point for me, is like that. Now I'm going to do another shadow, and some people would do it in that layer, but this is me, and I like to have lots of flexibility to be able to edit it. So I would go to my layers and I would make another layer. And doing the same thing, I would put a shadow under her boobs. And then up here, I would lower the opacity of it. slightly. So that's another thing you can do. You can play with the opacity. You could go over here to where it says normal, and like we said before, we can change the blending mode. That's always fun to play around with. I like to use multiply a lot for this kind of thing. Go back to this other one you did and maybe add some more in. Maybe lower the opacity a little bit. So that's kind of how I do shadows. If I was going to use my, like how I've done Ross and Rachel, I do the same thing, but I just do a brush difference. And I would do that, lower the opacity of it. It's just a bit more sketched what I do now. And a bit flatter. So, you know, both ways would work. When I try to add light and shadow, it looks glossy. Maybe it's because of the brush I use. Glossy, do you mean like the texture that you're doing looks shiny? Is that what you mean? Let me know. From there, I would look into adding some highlights now. So highlights are similar in that I would eyedrop the colour and go lighter. Doesn't really matter how light you go. We do a soft brush again. Oh. Now anywhere that's kind of pointing up to the sun, so you have to remember, again, other people can do this so much better than me, but you've got the sun in the sky. Okay, hang on, let me move me again. It's like, where do I put me? Oh no. Sorry. I'm gonna put me down here and I'm gonna hide me. Okay, this is where I'm going. Say you've got the sun up here, right? Let's make it even brighter. Now, I'm no scientist, but sunlight comes down in straight lines, as some would call rays of light. Yeah? So you have to think about that when you're adding light to your characters. So for example, if a woman has boobs, I have the light hit here, but this will be in some shadow, and then maybe this will be back in light again, because the sun can't get in there. Does that make sense? So I know it's so simple, but just like having light hit there, I suppose it will hit there as well, but you just need to think about these kind of things. Especially when you want to add volume. If you had a ball, and let's not make it white, let's make it purple. And say the sun is, where's my sun layer? Say the sun's over here on this ball, okay? And it's kind of behind. Does that make sense? Well then, sorry, my computer's slowing way down now. It's struggling. Oh, let's make it a soft brush. Well then light is going to come in this direction, right? maybe even brighter here. Yeah. This is going to be in shadow. Oh God, I'm in the way again. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I will get better at this. One day I will be able to do this properly. This bit on the other side will be in shadow. Now, shadow isn't necessarily making it darker. It's just where the light doesn't hit it. So like you could be tempted to do that if you want to, but I wouldn't. Let me do this shadow a bit better. Let's see. I also can't think of anything more nerve-wracking than doing this online. Do you know what? I'm just so past, like, I know I'm not the best artist. I'm not the best person to explain this. I'm just going to do my best. I feel like as soon as you just think like that, and you just don't try to be better than you are, and just be honest and say, you can't do it. That's it. Oh no. So just, this might be overcomplicating it for a lot of you if, you know, you don't really care about this stuff. Some people really won't care. But if you want to add volume and not make your drawings look as flat, then it's all in adding lighting and shadows, basically. So when I showed you Seamus, which is this fella, although there's no like real obvious light going on, there's a light hitting his face and the front, and there's a backlight because I've added this rim, which is something I do on all my characters, which I'll talk about in a minute. See this light I've added here? Instantly brings some volume and lifts it from the background. Yeah. I've then had to think of other light sources. So I've got a bounce light happening from the bottom, which is like a warm light. You can see there. That adds some volume to it, especially around here. Again, I'd love to be able to do this again because I feel like I've improved, but this leg, for example, could easily have looked flat, but because I've got this orange light coming in from here, I've then got a rim light coming in from here. I've got shadow coming here where objects touch it, because where two things contact, you have the shadow. And the lightest point of the leg here, it gives this illusion that it's round along with the lines I've made. I'm fooling you into thinking that it's round. So these like little things you can add to your drawings 100%. So let's open, because I've been on for 50 minutes now, I do apologise. Let me see, Ross and Rachel. Let me open Ross and Rachel. And what I'm going to do is apply what I've just told you into Ross and Rachel. Hang on. No, again, I haven't named these files, so these layers. Let's find her grey top, which is here. I'm going to take off the shadows that I've already done. I'm going to remove the rim light I've done. So that grey top is quite flat now, or it is flat. And let's apply what I've just told you. So I'm going to assume, add a background colour so you can see. I am going to imagine that the sun is like in front of them on in front of them over here, like in the sky, you know what I mean? Kind of facing Rachel's face. Oh, let's see what it says. I tend to add bounce light to my characters' faces who are opposite the light source. Yeah, that's really cool. Would you do a series maybe of starting a 3D character like this? It really is amazing. Maybe. I haven't done a full character that looks 3D in such a long time. Maybe that is something I need to do. What do you do when you decide to change a colour of something after you've done all the shadows? Okay, well, I'll show you. Let me do this top, and then I'll show you how I edit the shadows. So, like I'm selecting the colour of her top. I'm not going straight down darker. I kind of go down and across, which, because it's grey, you can literally change it, but it seems to be I've done it on like this red scale. So, think, let's see. And then, right, so she's in the sun's kind of up and above her up here, so the shadow, oh, hang on, let's go even darker. That's because I've got, hang on, let me put some lighting modes on it here. So let me just turn these off so it gives an accurate colour. There we go. So I set it to multiply. There we go, you can see it now. Shadow is going to be back here, yeah, all across her back, because the sun's in front, so it's not going to get to her. And then it'll go, hang on, I'll do another layer, and then kind of do under here, like so. Because with the sun coming down, it won't hit her under her boobs. So then we could lighten up this bit ever so slightly. Like that. Then what I'd like to do is where things contact. So this top under here, where it touches, I would just like to go in and make it darker. Like that. And then the same where the apron touches. It's just like a contact. Yeah, you could do a little one here. Maybe where the hair touches. So there is some very quick kind of shadows on that. If I take them off, flat with some volume. Yeah, does that help? So like Millie's saying, what if I wanted to change that top to a red top? So what I would do is the layer here, which is the base layer, if I hide that, it hides everything because these are kind of attached to it. I double click it, which comes up with these different layer styles. This gets really complicated, but I like to use color overlay a lot. And when you click color overlay, you can literally change it to anything you want. So what do you want? Should we make it red? Now, I don't want to make this confusing. Those shadows that I've done won't have any effect on this while it's classed as a colour overlay as an effect. Because the shadows are on there, but it's making them red. So to cancel that out and to kind of finalise it, and you can right click and rasterize it. So this is like an extra complicated thing, but basically by rasterizing it, look, the shadows start working. So these shadows don't look right, and it's because they don't sit properly on there. And it's because, for example, this one looks muddy, because it's like a dark grey colour. So what I would do is just like we've done for the last one. You could either go in and repaint on top, or like I've just done, you could colour overlay, change the colour of it, remember to rasterize it, and if you want you can play with the layer styles, but you don't have to, leave it as it is, and just go through each one. So again, that looks really muddy, so you can change the colour of it. The highlight, was it a white I used? So I hope that wasn't too confusing. And there we go, we switched it to a red top, but I've just had to go through the layers and adjust the colours, because you use a grey or a muddy colour on a red, for example, it's not going to look good. So and obviously the outlines are the wrong colour now, because some people don't do outlines, but I do, and my outlines match the colour of the top, so I would just have to then go in with a dark red and edit these colours. So how this is working, because this might blow some people's minds, it's really easy. So I have my line layer as a layer, and on top of the line layer I'm using a clipping mask to paint those line layers. So if I release this from the clipping mask, that's what it looks like. Yeah, but because it's a clipping mask, it means it's only affecting the file underneath. Or you can use Alpha Lock, but I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible. I use clipping masks in mine. So yeah, there we go. So I'm hoping that has been helpful. These sessions, honestly, I could do them for 6 hours. It's so hard to talk about a subject in less than an hour. But if it has meant that in Procreate, like you don't have to do this in Photoshop, all of these things I've shown you, you can do in Procreate. Just some things might be named differently, but you can definitely do like clipping masks and different blending modes and everything. Yeah, I did use Procreate for a little bit. I much prefer Photoshop. Much prefer it. Photoshop and a big tablet. Like a big tablet. That's where my heart is. So, if you've got any questions, does anybody have any questions? Anyone want me to demonstrate anything here live? Let me know. And I would be more than happy to Procreate is easy to do clipping mask for myself, but Photoshop I prefer Alpha Lock. I think it's just whatever you start doing, you'll just get used to it. I just naturally just do clipping masks on everything. I'm going to close that and not save it. I wish I had all the Photoshop files of these and you could literally go through these layers and see how I've done it, but because they're studio projects, I have no access to the Photoshop files, unfortunately, so I just have JPEGs. But maybe I need to redo this Beauty and the Beast in a better way because I've learned so much. But like, for example, look how I did the skirt a long time ago. I just did like a light layer in the middle and then just like one line for the shadows. But if I was to do that now, for example, let's keep the lines on. Where's the lines? Let's keep those things. But this time I would I'd start off with this, because you have to think about with pleats how shadows work is it's light trying to get into the corners, and when it can't bounce no more in between those corners, that's where shadows happen. So I'd turn that down, and then I'd maybe go in with a lighter opacity. And a bit broader. Oh. It's not great, but just, you know, like for 2 seconds drawing. That was before. That's now. It just instantly looks more volume. So play around with it. I'd love to see what you can do. If you want to add anything to the Discord for me to look at. Let's see, what have we got? I'm sure I made like a homework section. Tutorial homework. You know, if you want to play around with adding some light and shadow to your characters or your objects or anything, add it there, and it'd be really cool to see. And if you've got any more questions, ask in there, and I'll do my best to answer them. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm sorry that it's not been as thorough as I would like. Like I said, I could do a 6-hour, 6-part series on this. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you all very soon. Unless there's any final questions, please let me know. Let me know if you've got any final questions. Oh, Sandra, thanks a bunch. I always feel a bit like, oh, that was so crap. Because I've been on so many amazing tutorials that are just so like planned out and organised and show you everything, and I just feel like I wing it. But yeah, it's fine. It's all good. Thanks a bunch for coming on. Thanks, Holly, for being here. I can't believe how many of you are actually watching this. I've only just looked that there's 37 people watching this. If I'd have known that while I was drawing, I'd probably have freaked out. It's fine. It's all good. Character series. Okay, I'll think about it. Maybe, I'll tell you what, I will redraw one of my characters in proper 3D style. Let me know who you want me to do. I've got my strawberry girl dress up here. That could be quite fun. Let me know who you want to see in proper 3D. And I haven't done it in years, but I'll try my best. But don't love it too much, because I just don't have the time to do that as my style anymore. I literally don't have the time. It'll take me a week to do, so. But maybe I'll do it live so you can come on and watch me do it. I can actually put some of these things into practice and you can see. Right, I'm going to go and do some more drawing. I've got a few things to catch up on and portraits to do and all that fun stuff. So thank you so much. Thanks for coming on. If you've got any requests of what you want me to do, I'll be putting out, maybe put in the Discord, or I'll put a poll out and you can let me know what you want to see. But I don't know if you can see here, because I don't know what your screen's like, but this is saved in a folder that is a playlist which is called Patreon exclusives. And there's so many things in there that I've done over the past few months, so have a look through. And I'll speak to you soon. Right, I'm going. Love you all to pieces.